UK is the country that once governed a quarter of the Earth's surface. Right now, it is a G7 power, a nuclear state, a UN Security Council member. But still there are 7 million people who are waiting for NHS treatment. Wages have stagnated for 15 years, and infrastructure projects cost more per mile than almost anywhere else on Earth. But why is this happening? Here's what most people get wrong. They blame the unions, they blame the government, they blame underfunding. They're all treating symptoms. UK's problems aren't accidents. They were built in, baked into laws written decades ago, hardwired into institutions that haven't kept pace with the world. Once you see the structure, the whole thing starts to make a strange kind of sense. But to understand how UK got trapped, we need to start with a law most people have never heard of. Past the year India got independence. The year is 1947, UK is rebuilding from rubble, and the government passes a piece of legislation called the Town and Country Planning Act. It sounds boring, but it is one of the most consequential laws in modern British history. Here's what it did. Before 1947, if you owned land, you had a right to develop it, subject to basic rules, like most Western countries still operate today. The 1947 Act nationalized that right. Think of it this way. In Germany or France, if you want to build something, you check a rule book, meet the criteria, and you can build. It's plain and simple. But in UK, first, you submit a planning application. A local council reviews it. The neighbors can object. The council holds a discretionary hearing based not on clear rules, but on their judgment. Every single project go like this. Now scale that up. A hospital, a railway, a laboratory, each one requires years, sometimes decades, of case-by-case permission. This is why HS2 costs more per mile than almost any comparable project on Earth. This is why Cambridge, one of the world's great science cities, cannot build enough laboratory space to house the companies its own university creates. So the science leaves and the investment goes elsewhere. It's not a money problem. It's a permission problem. And this system didn't just slow things down. It weaponized local opposition. Any organized group of residents can legally delay or kill a project. Planners even have a name for it: NIMBYism, or not in my backyard. The Resolution Foundation calls this planning paralysis a core driver of UK's housing shortage and productivity gap. And they're right. But the planning trap is just one piece of this puzzle, because UK has a deeper problem, a productivity crisis so stubborn, economists have spent 15 years arguing about what's even causing it. Between 1993 and 2008, UK productivity grew at roughly 1.9% per year. IT was catching up with its peers. Then 2008 happened. That growth rate collapsed to 0.4% annually and has barely moved since. That gap cost the average British worker around £3,400 a year in lost income. Every year, money for rent, food, their kids, simply gone. Compared to France, Germany, and the US, the productivity gap has doubled since 2008, now sitting at roughly 18%. So why this happened? Well, there are 3 things behind this. First, chronic underinvestment. Since 2005, UK has invested 20% less as a share of GDP than its peers. You can't sprint on an economy running on outdated equipment. Second, policy chaos. 6 prime ministers in 6 years. A Brexit that rewrote thousands of regulatory relationships overnight. A 2022 mini budget that nearly collapsed the pound in a week. Businesses don't build factories in environments like that. A London problem hiding a national one. Here's the detail that surprised me most. London's own stalled growth accounts for roughly 42% of UK's entire national productivity slowdown. The engine of the economy quietly lost power and dragged everything with it. The Resolution Foundation and LSE's 2023 report Ending Stagnation put it bluntly: UK is no longer catching up with its peers. it is falling behind, and a better year won't fix it. And fixing it requires long-term thinking, but UK's institutions seem almost designed to make that impossible. Here's why. Since 2016, UK has had 6 prime ministers. For any business thinking about a 10-year investment, a factory, a research center, that instability isn't inconvenient. It's a deal breaker. And when UK left the European Union, it inherited something almost no one discussed during the campaign. At the moment of departure, roughly 6,900 pieces of EU law were automatically absorbed into British law. All of it needed reviewing, keeping, amending, or replacing by a government that kept changing. That's not a political point, it's an administrative one. The sheer volume of institutional rewiring would have challenged the most stable government in the world. The human cost of this gridlock is visible in one number. As of early 2026, 7.1 million people waiting for NHS treatment. Median wait over 11 weeks. These aren't statistics. These are people waiting for cancer screenings and hip replacements. Living in pain while the system strains? Now add the demographic pressure. Here's a tension UK hasn't honestly resolved. The NHS would collapse without immigration. Roughly 12% of the entire healthcare workforce are non-UK nationals. And yet net migration running at several hundred thousand annually puts real pressure on housing, GP surgeries, and school places. High migration is simultaneously propping up a broken system and exposing how broken it is. Both things are true, and then there's the regional divide. Think of UK as a body where one organ, London, is doing the work of 3, while cities like Leeds, Sheffield, and Nottingham, with enormous potential, remain structurally disconnected from that prosperity. Germany has thriving regional economies in Munich and Hamburg. The US has Austin and Boston. UK built one world-class hub and wondered why everywhere else felt left behind. On the global stage, the trade deals post-Brexit have materialized. The City of London retained much of its financial power. UK's fintech and life sciences sectors remain genuinely world-class. But the OECD projected real GDP per capita costs from Brexit. Trade friction with Europe, UK's largest trading partner, added complexity that doesn't disappear with optimism. And British universities spent years in uncertainty about EU research funding, losing collaborations, talent, and time. But the truth is, Brexit didn't cause UK's structural problems. Most predate 2016 by decades, but it added significant complexity at precisely the moment UK most needed stability to reform. But here's what gets lost in every doom and gloom conversation about UK. The same country that built these problems has, repeatedly, engineered its way out of deeper ones. Everything we've covered, planning paralysis, productivity stagnation, political gridlock, demographic pressure, these aren't separate crises. They're one crisis with many faces. It works like this. Low investment starves productivity. Stagnant productivity strains public finances. Strained finances fuel political frustration. Frustration produces instability. Instability deters investment. Round and round, it feels like a never-ending loop. The reason it feels impossible is that everyone pulls on one thread when the whole knot needs to move together, but has been here before. The 1970s, runaway inflation, rolling blackouts, rubbish piling in the streets. The 1940s, standing virtually alone against a continent under fascist occupation. Each time, something shifted, not magically, but structurally. And the ingredients exist right now. 4 of the world's top 10 universities are in UK, a fintech sector rivaling Silicon Valley, a life sciences cluster around Oxford and Cambridge that is genuinely world-leading. And there is the legal system global businesses trust. The Resolution Foundation's Ending Stagnation report maps the route out clearly. The major solutions are more investment, real planning reform, a skills system built for today's economy, and critically, policy stability. Not perfect policy, just consistent enough for businesses to plan around. None of this requires a miracle. It requires compounding. Small, sustained structural changes, like compound interest, that build into transformational momentum over a decade. So, back to where we started. A country that invented the Industrial Revolution, that produced Newton, Darwin, and Turing, that built parliamentary democracy. Can it get out of this? Yes, most certainly. But it is, genuinely and structurally, stuck. Stuck in planning laws written for 1947. Stuck in a productivity trap compounding quietly for 15 years. Stuck in political cycles too short to solve problems that run too deep. The difference between stuck and broken is everything. Broken means the story is over. Stuck means the next chapter hasn't been written yet. Here's my prediction. The countries that thrive in the next 30 years won't be the ones with the most resources or the biggest armies. They'll be the ones that can reform their own institutions fast enough to keep pace with a world changing faster than anyone expected. UK has done that before, and when they get this right, the transformation will be worth watching. After all, UK is the country that once governed a quarter of the Earth's surface.